Hey everybody, it's Thursday.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Night Bite.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily. And actually, it's the second time this week that we were able to come to you. Yeah, because to be honest, like we've been talking about, every vendor, that's a weird way to put it, but here's why. Every vendor that we talk to from here until the Wisconsin Fishing Expo is coming to the Wisconsin Fishing Expo. There are vendors there at that event. So the nice thing about this is we get to, highlight some products or techniques or places or things or all kinds of unique stuff. And then everybody at home gets to hear about it here and then come and see it. I was going to say touch it, play with it at the expo, because there's often times where you can, choose your own jigs or check out rods or all kinds of tip ups and tip downs and things that people have coming out. Sometimes it is easier to see how that works. So we do a little bit of that here together and then a little bit of that when you're at the expo.
A lot of it of that at the expo.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So we typically start off with a fishing report, and I think we did a little bit of that on Tuesday. But I think that we are really easing into a weekend that's going to be great fishing, no matter where you are across the Midwest. That's a really wide range to say, but here's why.
Crappie whisperer.
Well, okay, fall fishing, if you can find some of those fish, because this is the time if you're going to ice fish, start getting on some of those fish, look for them, where they are, what they're doing. But I think honestly going into fall, you typically we find a pretty good bite, right? And so what happens is if you are maybe a little bit more north where they've had colder temperatures, maybe those fish are really schooled up over the deep or whatever, or if you're south of us, and maybe fall is just beginning, right? Everything in between those two transition, it can be tough. That's why I said you got to stay on those fish to find where they're going, for fall and into winter. But overall, a really great time of the year and some really great weather, I think, coming our way. I'm pointing out our window. You can't see that. It's great weather out.
Great weather
out. So with that, I guess, do we have anything specific that we're going to try this weekend? Or I guess we haven't even talked about.
Well, I mean, the strategy is going to be hide and go seek with the wind, right? So it's supposed to be a little bit breezy by us. So I guess we're just going to probably focus on just, like you said, finding the transitioning fish. And, if we can get on a trolling bite, that would be ideal just because that's easiest in the wind.
Or drifting.
If not, if we don't have anything going with the moving, then I guess we just probably target some deep structure and just hope for the best.
Well, and with that being said, one of the things that's important for me this time of the year is to have my rods set up in the boat. So what that means is I usually have some kind of an ultralight setup with a tungsten, something small, maybe buggy in case fish are finicky, or just a picky bite or something. I have a bobber setup, which is great. And then I also have like my jigging, trolling rod, usually some kind of a jig with plastic that I can interchange out really fast. And I think that you have a fairly similar method. But the nice thing about this is I think we're going to break down the rods even a little bit more tonight because we have an expert here with us. Is that true?
Yeah, we do.
So let's bring him on the show, Declan, with JT Rods. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, hey guys.
And I guess it's JT Outdoors, but I always call them JT Rods because I use the rods.
Yeah.
Cool. So thanks so much for being here. We know you a little bit, but can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so kind of starting back to how I got into fishing, I guess. Grandpa was the one who got me in when I was about 4 or 5 years old, so I've been fishing pretty much my whole life. Been a passion for me, and kind of was looking for jobs in the area. Stumbled across JT, became the operations manager. Been doing that for 3 years now, and so that's been kind of my life for the past 3 years. And been loving it. Building rods is awesome, and managing staff and getting orders and stuff out the door and talking with people, making rods for people it's awesome.
Okay, you said 100 awesome things in there, but what I'm laughing about is that you stumbled upon, or at least made it sound like stumbled upon the job that you have, because so many people, just really dream about working in the fishing industry and with a job like you have. And I think they totally underestimate how difficult that is. But where I'm going with this though, to be honest, I think I forgot. But there's a lot of really great stuff that comes out of Minnesota. And
Yeah.
you're kind of in an area where fishing is like really concentrated. And so as far as fishing jobs and things that people want to do, I mean, that's a really cool thing to find a niche in a field like that.
Yeah, it is.
So as far as with JT, you said that you're a fisherman,
Yep.
and you do a whole lot more. So where do we start?
Well, so I guess what so are you talking rod wise or just fishing wise or
Sure.
so-
Yeah, let's start with rods.
rods? So I mean, JT, we specify in technique specific rods. So if you're looking for a rod for pitch and jigs or jigging or using spoons, we have a specific rod for that. You're not going to use a extra heavy rod to fish for panfish. So you're going to want a specific rod for using tungstens, and you're on a specific rod for pitching those big heavy tubes for lake trout and stuff like that. So we specify in kind of a wide variety of ice fishing rods. Well, speaking ice fishing, since ice fishing got coming up, but we do have a good collection of open water rods for techniques for open water fishing as well.
I love the concept of the technique specific, because I know that this sounds like such a basic thing, but if you are ever, we're talking about the expo, if you ever go to a booth and work a booth like for rods, it's amazing how many people don't realize what kind of a rod that they're picking up, right?
Yeah.
And so often you have people like come up to the booth and they like choose the one first thing that they see, and either they do like the bend thing or they do like the wiggle thing, and then like sometimes they love it or they hate it and they set it down. But there is so many different rods to choose from because they are technique specific. So it's not necessarily about having one that does it all.
Exactly. Correct.
Yeah. And one thing that I think most of the people watching kind of know that Emily and I dabble in building rods, right? And so, when we came across JT Outdoor Products, like, we were kind of like, oh, okay, like another rod company. But then we started using some of the stuff, and like, even as rod builders ourselves, like the capability to like pick out stuff that we can use, that we like to use, like JT like really covers that for us and kind of skips that building step. So like, if we want to build something, it's because like we want a different color and stuff like that. And like, even you guys even cover that a little bit at the in-store shop. Like, you have components available if people stop in store. And so like, even now it's like the perfect place for us to shop for rods. And like, technique specific, it's really cool because if you talk with Joe, the owner, like he has in his mind why he built these rods, and they're specifically for techniques, and he can tell you that. If you talk to the different staff though, the rods serve a specific technique for each individual person. And so for, I know that some of the staff likes to use like the panfish snare. They love using that as a walleye rod.
Oh yeah.
I found it to be like my favorite like hover rig rod, like for the smaller baits. Like, I love that. Like, it's awesome. And not that it was actually meant for that, but it like is that rod for me. The medium, the medium heavy, like, or the medium light serves as my float rod, and not everybody at JT makes fun of me for that, because it's like, why are you fishing panfish with a medium light rod? And I'm like, well, I guess you're not catching big enough panfish. So like, it's really cool to have that selection there. And I'm talking open water, I guess it's still open water, but like, it goes across into ice too.
Yeah.
So is there, I guess with all that being said, is there a most popular rod?
So probably our most popular, well, we can go in open water first. 7-1 JTX. That's going to be our most sold rod across the board. Yeah, like you said, it serves multiple purposes. I was using it this summer for bass fishing, pitching, drop shots and Ned rigs for bass. So it makes an excellent rod for doing that as well. It's not just walleye specific techniques. It can be crossed over for bass and other fish as well. Ice rods though, it's a tough battle, I think, between the panhandler and the shiver stick. Those two are probably our top two. If you're going in lengthwise, it's going to be the 30-inch panhandler and then the 32-inch shiver stick. Panhandler is going to be great for small tungsten spoons, maybe a little bit on the heavier side for those small tungsten jigs. I prefer the 24-inch version of that for that. But then the shiver stick as well, more of a medium light fast action rod, so you get more of a parabolic bend throughout the whole rod for 1/4 ounce spoons and stuff for walleye. good eater walleye fishing rod.
That's awesome.
So I know that Josh has the website pulled up here, and I think it's really fun to even show people a little bit because, when we're talking a little bit back and forth in this episode about open water and ice, the thing is your website does a really nice job of separating them. And so especially when we are talking about ice season and the ice expo and the rods that you're going to have there, this is a place that you could go and come and get like a quick heads up on what you'll find.
It's not loading. My computer's not loading.
Nope.
Yeah, let's try this again.
Anyways, we will maybe stop sharing it. We'll bring that back up in a second, but I'm sure that we will talk about a few more. So I guess as far as this season, is it bad to ask if there's anything new coming up?
We do have some new stuff, and I have some stuff here to show you guys. So we got no new technique specific rods, but we are expanding on color options. So I can start off with a few that I got back here hidden behind me. So people love that white blank that we brought for the Rogue, and we had the Patriot edition for that. So we expanded on the white blanks a little bit, and we added a new white 30-inch gold digger, and we got it in 2 new colors as well. Still kept with that neon pink and that neon green color scheme, but instead of the white on white, we went with a silver metallic wrap on the rod.
Yeah.
So this is going to be your medium light fast or extra fast action rod, so a little bit more stiffer, great for jigging up to 1/4 ounce jigs or a little bit heavier for walleye mainly. So that's going to be your gold digger. We went ahead and did it with the shiver stick as well, the 35-inch. That's been a popular model for us recently. Same silver metallic wraps with like a blue matte, or we like to call it or not blue matte, but a Maui blue wrap.
Wow.
So similar to our panfish snare, that's going to be the same color on that guy. This is that shiver stick I was talking about, medium light as well, but a fast action instead of extra fast, so a little bit more of a full bend throughout the rod.
Okay, so there is a really good question in the comments, but wait, because you were talking about something that I think is really important that we should not pass up. You're talking about the action of the rod, and I think that's something that people often get confused. So can you use maybe perhaps that rod that you had?
Yeah.
Can you demonstrate what the different actions mean?
So this is going to be our gold digger. So this one's an extra fast. So it means you're going to get to the backbone a lot quicker. So if you see when I load up this rod here, it almost like it's a lot more stiffer up here in this mid section of the rod. It's more flat where that tip loads up a lot quicker. As I bend it here, you can see in the bend, it kind of stiffens out. Where if I take this shiver stick here, which is a fast action, and bend it, it bends a little bit deeper in the blank than that gold digger did. It's a lot more flexible in that back end.
So action does not mean sensitivity necessarily.
Nope. If you're looking at sensitivity, that's going to be actually the material that the rod's built with. All our rods are, I should say, most of our rods are built with carbon fiber. We only have 2 models that are one's a blend and one is straight fiberglass. But that's actually the next rod I was going to show you guys is our walleye snare. This is a fiberglass carbon fiber blend, which allows it to have a very soft tip, but a stiff, rigid backbone for fighting the fish. So this is our dead stick rod. So with the soft tip, you don't really need it for sensitivity. This is a dead stick rod. You don't need to be feeling what the fish is doing at the end of your line. It's more visual, where that's where the carbon fiber comes in handy. Is carbon fiber allows the transfer of energy to your right hand, so you can feel the bites. That's why we go with carbon fiber for all our jigging rods, panhandlers, shiver stick, gold digger, black rain, even all our open water models are carbon fiber blanks.
Okay, has that one always been available in orange?
No, that's one of the new ones. That's one of the new ones.
Yeah.
Amazing.
We'll come back to that.
Okay,
that's one of the new ones. Orange.
Yeah.
Walleye snare orange.
No, we'll come back to that because here's why. Is we were talking about action and all that, and I think that in part is relevant to the question that we have in the comments. So Dwayne is asking about talking ice rods. He does not like noodle rods because he cannot hold it still enough to efficiently work the lure. Totally fair. My question is, can a rod be too stiff and cause line breaks?
I don't think so. It depends on how big of a lure and stuff you're using. You kind of got to weigh that out with the bait and the rod you're using. That's kind of why we go with the technique specific rods. You got to match your line weight, your lure to your rod. Otherwise, that's when you can occasionally get line breaks.
I'm also going to throw in, I think, like a huge piece of this is the reel that you're using, because a lot of line breaks will have to do with how your drag is set. So if your drag is so super tight that you can't really get line out of there without the line breaking, then I would say loosen that drag, and not so much that fish is like screaming line out. That gets kind of crazy. There is a sweet spot, and you kind of have to keep on top of it sometimes, but reels these days are like really, really super great, and they are super sensitive, and you can adjust that. So as long as you find something that you like, and maybe even if there's people listening, they can put their favorite reels in the comments or whatever. But I also think that the other thing that's important with the rod is that action, right? Because if you have a rod that is too fast of an action, too floppy, like you're saying, I wouldn't be able to work a lure either. So then that's where it's exactly back where you're saying, Declan, it's about matching the weight of the lure to the line, to the, to all of the things, and make sure that that's flowing smooth. A little bit of additional information. Yeah, go for it.
Well, so I would, Dwayne, I just want to touch on this just a little bit more, because this is one of my favorite topics. I'm really passionate about line. I think that it's a really overlooked element in fishing, especially when you want to go from, like, let's say you're like a super efficient fisherman and you want to take that next step up to the upper 10% of fishermen. I really think focusing on line for your application is just as important as picking a rod or picking a reel, because if you're fishing the wrong line for the wrong depth, you might have problems. And so, like, if let's say you're using monofilament and you're fishing deep, you're not going to have a lot of line break, but you're also losing sensitivity. And so you can have a little bit less stretch line, something like fluorocarbon or braid, and still have a super light line in deep water. Shallow water, you might want to run monofilament because it has a little stretch to it. So when you go to set the hook, even if you have a little bit of a stiffer rod, it'll absorb some of that hook set. And honestly, you say you're fishing for mostly crappies. As well as I do, you don't really need to bass set the hook like Declan on just these crappies, right? You can just yank on them a little bit and it's perfectly good, especially in the wintertime. So I think there's a lot of variables there, but no, honestly, Dwayne, like, my last little sentiment, I really like to use like extra fast equipment. Like, I don't like a lot of bend. I don't like a slow or a moderate action. I really like a faster action where all the bend is in the tip, and then you have a lot of backbone. We'll probably get to it, but all the panhandlers come with a spring bobber, and that's a whole nother episode for me to talk about. So we won't go into that. Message me, Dwayne, if you have more questions.
We might get into it. Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay, Declan, thoughts after all of that?
No, that's all good,
Okay.
good stuff. Yeah.
So as far as Dwayne, he does have a few more specifics. So as far as your expertise in all of the JT rods, he does like a longer rod, so crappies, something 40-inch. So do you have any other specific suggestions for him other than what we've talked about already?
So if he's looking for a crappie rod for panfish, ice fishing, we do have a 35-inch panhandler. That'd be my first one I'd recommend him to. It's a light action rod with a spring bobber, without, kind of depends on what lures you plan on using. That's what I'd recommend, getting the spring bobber with or without, or if you're unsure, get it with. You can always not put it through that last spring bobber eyelet and put it through just the final one on the rod, so that way you can get a bit of a more stiffer action out of it. Otherwise, we do have a 44-inch shiver stick, which some people do like to use for aggressive jigging for crappies. If you like using little glide baits and stuff like that, people like that one as well.
Fun.
Yeah. Awesome.
One more shout out in the comments: a 38-inch rod minimum for hole hopping. So it depends on what you're looking for. I think that there's a few longer options for like walleye or other species. Trout, perhaps. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah. So we got two. So the 44-inch shiver stick, like I recommended, that's going to be a medium light. So if you're looking for a hole hopping rod for walleye, that would be a good pick as well, just because of that length and that parabolic bend. Really allows you to keep those fish pinned. Otherwise, we do have the 38-inch Black Rain. That's a bit more of a beefier rod. That's going to be a medium action. So if you're using rip and wraps, big heavy spoons and stuff like that, I especially like using that rod up on Lake Winnipeg for those big greenback walleye. That's my go-to.
You know, when you just happen to be in Lake Winnipeg for the big greenbacks, right?
Yeah.
We don't ever get an invite. That's okay. It's fine.
We'll have to go. We'll have to go.
Yeah, no, that's true. No, it's on the bucket list for sure.
Oh my goodness. So one of the things that I would like to really talk about is snare rods, because I think that is something that is unique, right?
It is.
It's right. So tell us, start this off. Where do we
Sure.
start? What is a snare rod?
So a snare rod is going to be a dead stick rod. I actually have my personal one back here. It's better to show it off in its full glory than try to explain it. So this is our dead stick rod. This is our walleye snare. We make it in a panfish snare model as well. This is a rod you kind of set in a rod holder and let it do its thing. I like to throw just a circle hook with a shiner and then a single weight on the end of mine, set it in the hole next to me and just let it do its thing and let a walleye come in and grab it. The benefit of the walleye snare is that it has this very soft tip. Like I said, it's a fiberglass and a carbon fiber blank. And what the fiberglass allows it to do is have this super soft, malleable tip that a fish can take line or bite the bait without feeling the resistance of the rod. So we also recommend pairing it with a bait feeder reel. This is a Okuma Seamar bait feeder that I have on the end of this one here. And the Okuma bait feeder has two drags to it. So the first drag is going to be your bait feeding drag. All you got to do to activate it is flip up this switch on the back. And what that allows the line to do, or the fish to do, is take some line. So what it's going to do is the fish will bite, take your bait, gently load up this tip, and take line without them feeling the resistance of the rod. And that gives you time to react and make sure that the fish fully takes in that bait before you go ahead and start fighting the fish. And all you got to do to start fighting the fish is start reeling on the rod. It'll snap into your main drag, which you can adjust at the top here. And then you can fight the fish. So it gets into that stiff backbone, that carbon fiber piece of the walleye snare to fight it. And the panfish snare built the same way as well, just a bit more lighter on the lighter end. This is more of a medium rod, where the panfish snare is going to be your light, ultra light.
So first of all, if hearing that drag doesn't get you excited for ice, then I can't help you, because I'm like thrilled to pieces at this moment, as if there was a fish there and it's not. But it is truly that exciting on the ice, because what's hard for me is like, oh, I love tip ups and the set and forget or whatever, check it throughout the day or whatever. But there is something so tough for me about like honestly, like leaving a rod and like not touching it. But it is so effective and it helps us cover the ice. And so, to watch it, you put a minnow on and it's such a sensitive tip. And so you watch that minnow like swimming around. And sometimes it like swims crazy, or sometimes it's like so calm. You like need to go see if it's like alive. But ultimately, it is such a fun way to fish because you still get to fight it on the rod. And so, like you said, it's great to have that bait feeder reel so you're not getting your stuff dragged down the hole. You're not losing the rod, right? Yep. But you have that ultimate control with the drag system, with the reel, with the rod, with the whole setup. And why that's important is because sometimes you set this out there and instead of like a nice crappie or instead of like an eater walleye, you get like a trophy pike, hopefully, right? But what I'm saying is when you have a fish that big, you have the ability to control that, right? You have a better chance, in my opinion, of getting that fish in. Yeah.
Especially with that stiff backbone.
So cool.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else I can say other than I just love those things. Like me, especially being here in Wisconsin, like, I grew up in Minnesota. When winter comes, you finally get to have that extra line you've been wanting all summer. Yep. Here in Wisconsin, it's 3 lines all year long, and having the ability to even if you're out there just like setting, like if you just were setting tip ups and then you get into a good panfish bite, you can just pull 2 tip ups and throw these out and be jigging and still catching crappies or bluegills or whatever on the side. These are awesome at night for fishing walleyes. You know, we put them in the finicky foolers so you can have the flag pop up on them, and it's like a rod holder.
Yep.
It's super fun. Like they're just a super versatile way to fish, and it's interactive, right? Like a tip up is fun, but the most movement you see is like the spinning. Like
right,
the
and you don't feel the actual strength of the fish just pulling a line in this. Your rod's really
and
caked over and
bent over, and
yeah.
and like seeing you pull on the rod like full strength, like it doesn't do it justice like as it does in your hand. Like you go to pull the rod and like the thing's doubled over and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it bends that much. But like you still feel like you're in control. It's super fun way to fish.
Yeah. This is also a funny thing to say, I guess. You know, there is the walleye series, also the panfish. And so we were saying technique specific. Great, go for it. But we have so much luck on the panfish that if I don't know, they're sensitive enough, but it's great for walleye. Or like I said, even that will bring in a pike. So I guess my secret tip is if you are looking for kind of an all-in-one snare rod, I do really like that panfish one. I don't know. If you're really a walleye person, go with that, right? But I have such luck on the panfish snares. I just set those up first.
Yeah, well, and they're you know, they're just going to be that later action. Like you can fish with the underpowered rods, and it's going to be just fine. You just have to be set up for it, right? And I agree with you. Like that would be a good entry level, and I guarantee you, if you buy a panfish snare or two, you're going to want to have a walleye snare or two just because you want them. Like, because you're gonna want to use them at some point. I don't know. It's awesome.
Awesome. Cool. So after that, what else are we talking about for ice season?
Well, you kind of showed off the orange walleye snare already, so we got orange version coming out.
Okay. So actually, great point. So while we're on this topic, are there other colors available? What does that look like? If people want specific things, tell us more.
So, as of right now, this is going to be the standard model, just orange and then black wraps for the walleye snare, as well as those other white models I showed you. That's kind of the standard we have coming out. If you want something special, I do special rods, wraps wise, or if you have a little bit of a unique idea, give me a call at the shop and we can talk something out. I can tell you what I can do. But as of right now, this is the standard colors. As for the shows and the show season we have coming up, since we do have those 2 new white models of the Gold Digger 30-inch and the 35-inch Shiver Stick, we are bringing back the Patriot Edition. So I have
awesome
red, white, and blue models of the 35 Shiver, the 30-inch Gold Digger, and then the Rogue again, of course. So since that one sold so well last year. So
do you sell it like as a kit? I just want like all 3 at once. That looks so nice together.
I don't know if we'll be doing a kit, but we'll for sure have all 3 at the shows, and then we'll look at putting them online too. I think last year we put the Rogues online as well. So if you didn't get a chance to come to the shows, they should be available online eventually too.
Nice.
And red, white, and blue butt logos, or American flag JT butt logos on these guys as well. So I'm going to show that off. But as for ice rods for this season, that's it. Just the kind of new color waves for a handful of them. So
that's so cool.
We got coming.
Yeah, I really like that orange.
Well, and there's so many rods available that people already love. That, you know, I mean, I guess if people are looking for anything else, like you said, hit you up. But I mean, otherwise, there is so much available that there's probably already a rod for everybody out there.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So the other thing that that we always look at the expos is the hot box, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
That was kind of how JT originally started, was the hot box. What it is just a unit that allows you to keep your ice hole open if you have a tip up or a walleye snare out there. So that way your hole doesn't freeze over. I think they tested it out to negative like 30 below, and it kept your hole open in those freezing cold temperatures. And it's not like a charcoal or like a little like candle box or anything like that. As you can see in the picture there, you hook up an actual 1 pound propane cylinder, and it's a propane heated box to keep your hole open.
Well, and I don't know how big it actually, yes, that this is on people's screen, because if you're watching it on your cell phone, then this is going to be really small, what Josh is highlighting. But what that says is keeps your ice hole from freezing at -20, even with 20-mile-per-hour winds. And so I know that there's a lot of people pack snow and do all these crazy things and whatever, but that winter takes over, right? But when you have something like this that can actually block the wind like that, actually, it's crazy.
Yeah. No, yep, yeah, and it's nice because it's surrounded, so it's walled off, so the wind's not getting in there. Has those egg cart. You can see the white on the bottom of the box there. So that way it's almost like an egg carton. I think it's an egg carton or ice cube tray material. So that way it doesn't freeze to the ice while it's out there. And then the top is open like it is right there in that picture, so you can have a rod set up right over top. Line goes straight down the hole, and then it also has a flip open top, so half the cut top's covered, half of it isn't. Flip that top open so you have plenty of room to fight the fish or reach down there and grab it out of the hole.
Yeah, so it's not something, go back up, Josh. It's not something that you're having to take the piece off or around the rod or
you're not reaching in a little door or
nothing's getting caught. And it's larger than the hole, right? And so you're not trying to squeeze a fish.
Yeah, up to 10-inch holes, it fits perfectly around. So
awesome. Because we always hear those people that are like, I catch big pike, and it'll fit.
Yeah.
But Josh scroll back down again where you were. It does fold up very nice. It is super portable, hangs on that bucket. Also can be used as with the rattle reel. And so that's actually really great because all these people that are ice camping or out with kids or whatever, you have all of these different options. Cool. Also shout out to blue tips on there because that's actually what I use. That could be my picture. It's not, but it's like real life for me.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So one of the things that Josh had mentioned, I think early on in the show, is that if you are the kind of person that you do not make it to the shows and the expos, and that's fine because I understand they're busy or maybe you live far away, JT actually has a store that people can go to at any point. Is that right?
Yep. We're located in Farmington, Minnesota, right off of Pilot Knob Road. We're open Monday through Saturday. Just check online for our times and swing on by, and either I'll be there or my assistant manager Trevor, and we can help you find what you need or what you want.
Well, and the nice thing is that if people are looking at, all these different rods that we're talking about tonight and stuff, that these are going to be on display at the store. Is that right?
Yep. We got open water stuff out for probably just half of the month here, but mid-October we'll start switching stuff around in the storefront, but we have everything in stock. So if you want to swing by and ask me for a specific rod, I got them in the back. So I'll go grab one for you.
Well, and then also at the store, there are, let's say, some extra goodies that people can find. So I know t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, all those cool things, probably a bumper sticker. I don't even know. You have a whole store in the front, right? Yep. But where I'm going with this is that you also sell the components for this. And so I know that you mentioned this, but I think that there's a huge amount of people these days that are getting into, making their rods or getting involved in what this whole process looks like in fishing. And so when they come there, they can actually buy these products. Is that true?
Yep. All the componentries to the blanks to handles, eyelets, if you ask, we got it all.
Fun. Do you guys teach people? Do you do rod building classes?
We did for our grand opening, and we've been requested a handful of times to do it again. So I think it will be something we can do eventually. I know we're in the process of kind of figuring out space in the shop. It's almost like we're outgrowing the space we just moved into. So, but yes, I think it would be something that we could possibly do again in the future.
You're maybe after the Christmas rush.
Yeah.
I guess that's a good point. So if people are ordering and everything, come to the expo, you can pick it up. But if people are ordering, if it's by Christmas, do you have a specific time that people will have to do that by?
We're pretty efficient right now. We have a lot of inventory. So if it's rods that stock model that we make, yep, cool. Otherwise, if you want something special colors or a name on the rod, we only charge an additional $10 for each of those customizations. but generally spit out time is within a week or two at the most. We're pretty quick at getting stuff turned around.
That's awesome. The other thing that I guess we haven't talked about is when you, because I'm thinking components now, and I'm like, yeah, you can choose all your pieces and your handles and all of that, but that's something that you even get to do in part with the rods themselves. So if you choose that the components are not for you, you want something pre-built, you still get to choose different styles, the lengths of the rod, the colors of the wraps, in some cases, there's certain things available, but also the handle style changes. And so those are all ways that even if you're getting something off the rack or off the shelf or whatever, that still feels like a customized piece for you as an angler.
Yeah. Yep. No, a handful of models have split grip handles or full grip handles, depending on what you prefer handle wise. Few of our dead stick models will have a solid reel seat on them. But yeah, you really get to pick what you want.
And actually, well, I had mentioned Christmas, which, man, I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself because it's not even October yet, but the shows, they hit fast, the expos, they hit fast, Christmas, it hits fast after all of that, right? And where I'm going with this is that a really great stocking stuffer is the reel tape. And that's something that JT offers and matches right to the rods. And so when you pick out your rod, if you like, let's say a cork handle or something, something that doesn't have that built-in seat, and you're going to attach that rod, you have that tape that does that.
Correct. Yep. And it's similar to our sugar material. So I guess, do I have here? I got a rod.
I'm like, you must have
I got a rod that's wrapped up with it. So this is our Sure Grip tape that's on here. That's what's holding my reel onto this rod. It's a rubberized, very durable and comfortable material to hang on to that sets the reel on the rod nicely and allows you to kind of position. So this is one of our full handle models on our walleye snare here. And you can really set the reel wherever you want across this handle. So I have mine more forward on the reel, but just wraps around there. Each reel or each spool of tape you can do 2 rods with. So I got another half of this somewhere for another rod, but yeah, it's really nice.
Well, and that's a super easy thing to apply because sometimes you imagine like, oh, all this sticky tape and stuff. And honestly, okay, so shout out to Matt Bain. I don't expect that he's watching, but because I think he was the one who originally created for JT like a million years ago. I don't know. It's not a new YouTube video, but there is a video of how to apply the tape, probably from when it first came out or something. I don't know. And I don't know, it's like not his face or anything. It's just like his hands like working at the bench and like catching. But honestly, it makes it so easy and so straightforward that I have been able to put rods together out on the water, which you shouldn't have to do. I just, but I did. And so it's always nice to have that option. Or you said, oh, you can keep the extra. Honestly, I keep that with me because I've never had a problem with the reel tape. But once I was like, oh, just in case I need to rewrap this, in case something ever happens. And so I have that extra piece with me, but it'll probably never get used.
Nice.
Awesome. So I am glancing over to the screen here and I'm like wondering if there's anything else that we missed. I know that there's some tackle things that people can buy on the website and certainly the swag, right? T-shirts, sweatshirts, hats. Am I missing anything?
No, yeah, we got new tackle coming in. We just got those Northland tungsten spoons in for the winter. So those will be showing up on the website and will be going on the shelves here within the next 2 weeks. So I know those will probably be a popular item. People are loving tungsten for everything nowadays. So just that smaller profile is awesome.
Nice.
Cool. I do also see Josh like scrolled through really quick on some accessories and tackle, some Captain Donnie fish breading.
Oh yeah. Yep. We start carrying that too. It's delicious. I've tried it. It's really good.
Yeah. Shout out to Captain Donnie. I've not actually tried it yet, but if he's half as good at making breading as he is fishing, then I'm in. Oh my gosh, awesome. So as we move into the winter here, you were saying shortly the JT store is going to be moving from open water to ice. And I imagine that any time of the year you can still get any rod, right?
Yep. So all the rod production is done there as well. So the front of the house is a little tackle shop, clothing shop, JT Swag. All our rods are up there as well. So people can come in, feel them out, test them out, ask me a million questions. That's kind of the front of the house. And then the back of the house is all the rod production. So all wrapping, epoxying, straightening of guides, That's all done right in the back, and you're welcome to come right back and check it out. And I can walk you through the rod building process myself. Do that all the time with the customers, and it's really cool to see something that you don't see that often, especially in the States here. A lot of stuff is now made overseas, where our stuff's made right down here in Farmington, Minnesota.
That is awesome. And then for people who actually can't make it to the store, which everybody should, it's not really that far away. I don't know where you live, but it's not far. But you guys are going to shows and expos and all kinds of things. So what does your tour schedule look like this year?
So I think it's the first weekend and second weekend in November. We'll be at Sioux Falls for the first weekend. I think it's like the 5th and 7th, I think, or that weekend. The next we have the Blaine Hardwater Expo. That's a 2-day one this time. It's a Saturday, Sunday instead of 3 days. And then go on to December. We go to St. Paul. That's the Big Ice Show down here in the Twin Cities. And then over to you guys. Is it in Appleton this year? Oshkosh again.
But,
okay, just different location.
Still in Oshkosh. Yep, we move spots. We have lots more room.
Nice.
Yeah. So at the EAA grounds this year, it will be awesome. All of the vendors last year, it was split in between 2 buildings. And I think people love that. Food trucks and stuff were in the middle. This year, it will all be in one building, still with food trucks and coffee and all of that awesome stuff.
Well, lots of cool outdoor stuff, ice castles and whatnot outside too. So,
yeah. So we are looking forward to having you guys there. That is for sure.
Well,
and you guys got a big schedule, so that should be so fun.
Yeah.
Well, and also we've been talking with you a little bit, and we were able to get a couple of naked gold diggers from you a little while ago. And so I think Emily's going to wrap up a 30-inch gold digger. I'm going to wrap up a 34, and it's going to be completely unique. The only 2 out there that are like it. I didn't get any sweet JT logos for the bottom, so I might just put a Crappie Junction one down there just so you can tell yours apart from your buddies if the crazy rap Emily does isn't enough of an identifier. But I think we're going to have those at your booth for the show. I think we'll give one away on Saturday, maybe one away on Sunday.
Nice.
I don't know if we've really figured out the details, but I think you just have to stop by the booth and get maybe a ticket or something, and we'll do some drawings for some free rods. So make sure you stop by the JT booth at the Oshkosh Expo this year.
Yeah. Before we go any farther from this conversation, because this is a very random, I'm jumping topics, so I'm so sorry. But there's a comment that came in, which is actually really good, and it's worth talking about, right? We did maybe talk about a little bit of this, so hang tight with us. But Andrew says he's in Wisconsin, has always loved beaver dam tip ups, because how could you not? But the last couple of years been wanting to move towards dead sticks and basically fighting fish on a rod. So this year looking at different style tip ups and jaw jacker styles and tip down styles recommendations. So that's that snare rod. If you just tuned in, that is perfect and that is great. But rewind this episode like 20 minutes and you are going to love that, because there is snare rods for panfish, snare rods for walleyes in different colors, all kinds of things. It's doing exactly what you are talking about. But I had to also bring this up because I would say, finicky foolers, jaw jackers, I think they're fun. We are in a state where they can do that auto set. Many people are in a state where they cannot. When you have something like a snare rod, you can travel with your gear. And so, yes, maybe try out a finicky fooler or a jaw jacker or whatever it is that, they're fun. Go to the expo, pick one up, do that. But also make sure that you have something in your bag that you will be able to use if you visit Minnesota or a neighboring state, because a snare rod, perfectly good, does all those things that you described, but you cannot use a jaw jacker set up to auto set in those states.
Yeah, that's true. And I think for me, I feel like like an auto setting setup is great. And that's one of the reasons why I have a finicky fooler is for the once or twice a year I go down and try and fish trout down in the marinas by Milwaukee and stuff. I love having that option to have an auto setter. Me personally, I feel like I miss a lot of fish on the panfish side with it. I think that they have a tendency to like taste stuff, but never really actually suck in a hook. But some of that stuff is set so light that it just goes off, and then you end up missing it. I really like the snare rods just because they can taste it as much as they want, and as long as the bait stays on there, they'll have a chance to run away with it. You know, they're already like, it's a snare, right? So they're already caught before they even know what's going on. And so I think for me, my personal favorite setup is the finicky fooler with a hole cover, and I use the flag function, but not the auto setter function, and it's just a rod holder. And so it keeps the rod at a really nice angle so you can see the tip bend down.
But it's
additionally has the flag on it. My blue tips fit on it if I'm fishing in the dark.
So it's the best of the beaver dam tip out, because you still get the flag that pops up. You could still literally yell flag, right? Some people love that. I don't know.
Well, and you also have an additional auditory component because you have the drag going off because of the bead. Well, the bait feeder function on the reels, that it is very recommended that you go with a bait feeder reel. But you have that auditory function with the drag. You have the flag, you have the rod moving. So you have a whole bunch of notifications.
You will not miss that fish.
Yeah. And that fish will be on there for a long time. You know,
hopefully won't. You're going to go and catch it.
Well, I mean, look, but that's a really good point, is like, you know, sometimes with a tip up, you can lose fish because they pull out line and they stop, and then they get slack in the line. And then you come up to a bunch of line that you have to spool back up. The auto setter just sets it, and it's like, well, you know, it's gone. And then, but with the snare, I feel like, you know, if I'm drilling and it just happens to be a good day of fishing, I go set one, and I'm like 20 yards away setting up another one, and I go set up another one, and I look back and there's a flag up. I don't know if that's been up since I put the line down, or since or I just look back at it. But most of the time there's always a fish on it. Like, I barely miss fish on this thing. So that's why I like it. You know, that's why we choose to use this stuff, is because it works for us.
Well, there you go. Cool. So I hate to backtrack in the conversation, but I thought that was a totally worthwhile comment. And we love the snare rods. I know that's such a unique thing that you guys do, and so it's always worth mentioning. Cool. So we were talking about expos. You're going to basically all of them.
Yep, I'll be at all four.
Yep. But people can find that information on your Facebook page. Is that true?
Yeah, we'll post where we're going and what the season will look like, sales, everything JT related goes there.
Perfect. Can you remind us your Facebook page, like what are you called, and maybe your website so people can follow?
Yeah, so I believe Facebook page is just going to be JT Outdoor Products, but the website's going to be JTODP, so abbreviated, JTODP.com.
Perfect. And I believe that Josh actually just put those links in the comments. So whether you're watching from Facebook or YouTube or listening on a podcast, come and look this up, I guess. But the link is there and easy to just click on.
And the links, I think, provide with a little bit of extra. If you use the link that I posted, you get a little bit of extra off. So
there you go.
Perfect.
Awesome. Cool. So Declan, thank you so much for being here tonight. Letting us give you a hard time and talk all about all of these rods and everything.
Oh, it was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, man.
It is always a lot of fun. I am ready for ice season. I gotta say that.
I thought you were gonna say ice cream.
Ice season.
Ice season.
Ice season. But to everybody at home, thank you guys for being here as well, because that is always a big part of the fun. And as a reminder, we will have 2 episodes a week from here until the expo. There might be one in there that might not be true, but for the most part, so we're looking forward to bringing you lots of cool stuff from here through December. And so with that, thank you for being here, and we'll see you on next Tuesday's edition of The Night Bite.
Night, everybody.